Dr. James Chen is an inspiring example of how age doesn't have to be an obstacle to leading a dynamic and active life. At 92, he still works from his office in Boston, seeing patients twice a month. Many rely on him for their health care. For years, Dr. Chen has shared what he considers his secret to a long life. It's not complicated methods, but simple, consistent habits that often go unnoticed. Dr. Chen points out that there are two key areas of the body that we must take care of to maintain our health and vitality. With more than 65 years of experience, he has developed an innovative approach that combines modern advances, scientific knowledge, and ancient wisdom. This fusion has allowed both him and his patients to stay in excellent condition even in old age. According to Dr. Chen, the legs are essential for longevity. He says it all starts with the feet, and he always starts his day by examining and caring for them. For him, legs are the key to a long, active, healthy life. Research from Harvard Medical School supports Dr. Chen's claims. Taking care of your feet on a regular basis significantly improves blood circulation and can reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease by 35% in people over 60. According to Dr. Chen, legs are the foundation of the body, but we often neglect them. As an example, he mentions his patient John, who came to his office complaining of persistent fatigue and insomnia. Upon examination, Dr. Chen noticed that John's feet were cold, a clear sign of poor circulation. Together they implemented a regular foot care program, and after 3 months, John's energy had been completely restored, in addition to experiencing a marked improvement in his overall health. The results were astonishing, says Dr. Chen. Dr. Chen's recommendations for proper foot care. Dr. James Chen believes that health and longevity begin at the feet. According to him, proper care should start with the use of warm water, as it helps prevent dry skin. For about 3 to 5 minutes, the feet should be immersed in the water to soften the skin, preparing it for the following cleaning steps. Dr. Chen advises using a mild soap and performing circular movements gently, paying special attention to the areas between the toes, where moisture tends to accumulate, increasing the risk of fungal infections. Once this procedure is completed, it is crucial to dry the feet thoroughly, as, according to Dr. Chen, this is one of the most important steps in daily foot care. Dr. Chen suggests a simple massage method for foot care, applying pressure with your thumb, starting at the center of the foot and gradually moving toward the heel. This technique, which activates key points known for their benefits since ancient medicine, helps improve blood circulation and overall well-being. Recent studies support the tangible benefits of this care. For example, specialists at one clinic found that regular foot massages and procedures significantly reduce the risk of falls, improve balance, and even strengthen the immune system. In research published in 2023, it was observed that people over 60 years of age who consistently practiced this care had 30% fewer falls and experienced improved mobility. Dr. Chen compares foot health to the roots of a tree. Strong roots nourish the entire tree, and proper foot care provides a firm foundation for an active life. This connection is especially relevant for older people, who often experience a decrease in blood circulation over time. However, with proper care, this process can be reversed or improved. For best results, Dr. Chen suggests using good quality products. These include gentle exfoliators, brushes, non-slip shower mats, moisturizing creams, and comfortable orthopedic footwear. These simple measures can prevent common problems such as dry, cracked skin, fungal infections on the feet, and loss of feeling. Basic foot care tips. After showering, while the skin is still slightly damp, apply a moisturizing cream to your feet, making sure they are completely dry beforehand. Pay special attention to the spaces between your toes to prevent infections caused by moisture buildup. For added protection, use an antifungal powder and apply it to the inside of your shoes as well. By following these simple recommendations, you can keep your feet healthy and reduce the risk of frequent problems. One of Dr. Chen's patients, Margaret, 80, suffered from severe leg pain that prevented her from staying active. Following her doctor's recommendations, she began taking care of her feet on a daily basis. She washed them carefully with soap, massaged them, and moisturized them regularly. After several weeks of this habit, she experienced significant improvement that allowed her to resume her favorite walks. Today, at 82, Margaret leads walking groups in her community, inspiring others to pay special attention to their health and well-being. Recommendations for people with diabetes and circulatory problems. Dr. Chen emphasizes the importance of special care for those with diabetes or poor blood circulation. His suggestions include: carefully check the temperature of the water when washing feet to avoid burns, as people with reduced sensitivity in their legs are more prone to these types of accidents. Check your feet daily, paying attention to any cuts, blisters, or skin damage. See a doctor immediately upon noticing the first signs of problems, as early treatment is essential to avoid complications. These practices are key to protecting foot health in vulnerable conditions. In addition, it is recommended to use lukewarm water when washing your feet, which helps prevent dry skin. Apply moisturizer after washing your feet to keep your skin soft and well cared for. Avoid wearing tight shoes that can restrict blood circulation. Proper foot care not only promotes better circulation, but also helps reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease and other associated health problems. By following these simple tips, you can enjoy good health and maintain an active life, even in old age. By spending just 10 minutes caring for your feet before bed, you can not only improve their condition, but also promote deeper, more restful sleep. Performing a gentle massage with upward movements helps prevent fluid buildup, improves circulation, and reduces the likelihood of cramps during the night. On the other hand, the armpits are a natural detoxification center, a topic that Dr. James Chen considers important but little known. Although for most people this area is associated only with hygiene and body odor control, Dr. Chen highlights that its function goes far beyond that. According to him, armpits play a crucial role in the body's detoxification process, and proper care can significantly contribute to improving overall health and well-being. According to Stanford Medical Center, the lymph nodes located in the armpits play a crucial role in removing toxins and protecting the body. A study published in 2023 in the Journal of Immunology revealed that maintaining proper hygiene in this area can increase lymphatic flow by 40% and strengthen the immune system, helping the body fight external threats more effectively. Dr. Chen shares the case of Helen, a 70-year-old patient who frequently suffered from respiratory infections, which negatively affected her quality of life. Following the doctor's recommendations, Helen took a different approach to caring for her armpits. Within a few months, she noticed a decrease in the frequency of illnesses, along with an increase in her energy and a noticeable improvement in her overall well-being. Dr. Chen highlights the relationship between the lymph nodes located in the armpits and the health of the cardiovascular system. These nodes play a crucial role in maintaining proper blood circulation in the upper body. Neglecting to care for this area can disrupt the functioning of the lymphatic system, which could negatively impact natural detoxification processes. For proper underarm care, Dr. Chen suggests simple steps. Gently wash the skin with a mild, fragrance-free soap, using circular motions from the outside to the center of the armpits to stimulate lymphatic flow. Thoroughly dry the armpits after washing to avoid moisture buildup, which can encourage bacterial growth and slow lymphatic circulation. Avoid using antiperspirants containing aluminum, as they can clog the lymphatic system. Instead, he recommends natural options such as baking soda or mineral salts. Adopting these practices can help improve both lymphatic health and overall well-being. Lymphatic massage is an effective tool for keeping the lymphatic system in good shape. Although it is often overlooked in self-care, its impact is significant. Dr. James Chen says that even spending 2 minutes each morning on a massage can make a big difference in how you feel. Using gentle, light strokes, he recommends massaging from the armpits to the collarbone to stimulate lymphatic flow and relieve tension built up in the shoulders. One example is Robert, a 68-year-old patient who suffered from constant shoulder tension and a persistent feeling of fatigue. After following Dr. Chen's instructions and incorporating an underarm care routine and lymphatic massages, Robert experienced a considerable reduction in his shoulder tension and a noticeable improvement in his energy levels. By following these recommendations, it is possible to maintain good health and stay active even in old age, focusing on key areas such as the feet and armpits to improve circulation and promote detoxification of the body. In Robert's case, they began using natural deodorants and performing daily massages. Although there were no results initially, his condition showed a noticeable improvement within weeks. Dr. Chen stresses the importance of paying attention to signs such as persistent pain, hardening, or changes in the texture of the skin in the armpit area. These symptoms are reason enough to seek medical advice immediately. Identifying possible problems in the lymphatic system early is essential to ensure effective treatment and prevent complications. Practical tips for effective care. Proper cleansing. After washing the area, rinse the armpits thoroughly to stimulate the lymphatic system and minimize the development of bacteria. On hot days, clean the armpits several times a day with mild products to maintain a feeling of freshness. Before bed, make sure to cleanse the skin thoroughly before going to bed to allow it to breathe during the night, thus creating ideal conditions for the nightly regeneration processes. The positive impact of detoxification through armpit care has a double benefit, both physical and mental. When the detoxification system works properly, it not only improves the general condition of the body, but also reinforces the feeling of personal confidence, becoming a key ally in daily care. This is just one of the elements to maintain a healthy life in old age. From the age of 60, many people tend to walk less, but they must avoid certain mistakes in order to enjoy a comfortable and full life until they are 100. Being excessively kind. Helping others is a positive quality, but being too accommodating can make you vulnerable to manipulation. A clear example is the case of a neighbor, La Shenya, who after retiring dedicated her time to helping others, earning a reputation for her generosity. However, this disposition took an unexpected turn when an unemployed young man, whom she had repeatedly helped with money, broke into her home. This incident highlights the importance of setting clear boundaries, especially in old age, where every day is invaluable. Practicing self-care and learning to say no are essential to maintaining a calm and dignified life at this stage. Avoid excessive optimism. Being optimistic can be inspiring, but being overly tolerant, especially in close relationships, can lead to suffering. Many people tend to forgive inappropriate behavior in the hope that the situation will change, but this approach often leads to exploitation and disloyalty. Dr. Chen warns that excessive optimism can undermine your self-esteem and leave you open to constant disappointment. It is essential to respect your own feelings and not be afraid to set boundaries, even with the people closest to you. Choose your friends wisely. True friends are a rare treasure. It is crucial to surround yourself with people who add positivity and genuine support to your life, avoiding those who might take advantage of your kindness and disposition. By following these recommendations, you can maintain both your physical and emotional health and enjoy an active life even in old age. Staying active and providing support to your family contributes to a healthy lifestyle. Dr. Chen suggests avoiding vindictive or intolerant attitudes in family relationships. Sometimes, older people tend to criticize or lecture their children and grandchildren, which can lead to conflict and tension. This type of behavior often weakens the atmosphere of trust and love in the home. Dr. Chen advises learning to manage emotions and practicing greater empathy and patience. Showing care and respect strengthens family ties, making relationships closer and more harmonious. Family is a source of happiness and invaluable support, especially in the golden years. 8th, avoid excessive worrying. Worrying about offspring is natural, but it must be done wisely. As the proverb says, everyone has their own destiny, with joys and challenges to face. Dr. Chen warns that excessive care for children and grandchildren can be more harmful than beneficial, since their life is a personal path that they must travel on their own, facing its challenges and taking advantage of its opportunities. Dr. Chen stresses the importance of allowing children and grandchildren to grow independently, rather than continually intervening. Teaching them essential values such as modesty, responsibility, and self-control will provide them with a solid foundation for their future. It is essential to remember that life is much more valuable than any material possession. Your happiness and well-being should not depend on the results in the lives of your descendants. Instead, take care of your own health and balance, being a positive role model for them. This example will be the best legacy you can leave them. Final lesson. Share your opinion in the comments about these tips and tell us if you find them useful. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all our content. We wish you the best and much happiness. No one would have imagined that a nurse with years of experience working in a hospice, a place dedicated to caring for those facing their final days on Earth, would make such a startling statement that would shock the public. Even today, The topic of life after death continues to be avoided. She had this to say: "I want to share the incredible experiences that I have witnessed with my own eyes. I do this so that those who have lost loved ones can be assured that they are not gone forever. Even though they have left this world, they continue to exist in the spiritual realm." In the fulfillment of her professional responsibilities, she has witnessed hundreds of deaths and has had the unique opportunity to observe what happens to a person in their final moments of life. "I can say with absolute certainty," she explained, "that in those moments of the greatest mystery, a veil seems to lift from this world to the next, allowing the dying person to glimpse something that remains inaccessible to those of us who are still alive. Most of the time, what they perceive fills them with peace and serenity." While some believe in the existence of an afterlife and others deny it, for her this question does not raise doubts. "I do not need to have faith in life after death," she said. "I know with absolute certainty that it exists." The nurse who made this statement is called Julie McFadden. During her work in the intensive care unit of a hospice, she had to deal with numerous unusual cases. Julie openly confessed that on several occasions she witnessed unexplainable phenomena related to the process of human death. One of the most extraordinary and moving cases involved a patient who was not yet 30 years old, but who was diagnosed with a terminal illness. This young man spent the last 6 months of his life in the hospice. He was a difficult patient, as he found it difficult to accept that he would soon have to give up everything he had achieved with effort and dedication. The young man received few visits, both from friends and family, and his loneliness was evident. Julie often talked to him, and over time, she began to see him as a friend. In these conversations, he confided his deepest emotions to her, and the one that tormented him the most was his fear of death. He often asked her what exactly happens during the last moments of life and what awaits people when they cross over to the other world. The day this patient died, Julie was not in the hospice. While she was driving her car attending to personal matters, a strange premonition invaded her heart. That unusual feeling led her to think of the young man, and at that moment she thought she heard his voice saying, "If I had known that dying was like this, I would not have been afraid of his arrival." Surprised, Julie looked around to make sure that there was no one else in the car. At that moment, her phone rang. It was a call from the nurse on duty informing her that the young man had passed away. At that moment, Julie understood that, upon leaving this earthly world, the young man, as a sign of gratitude for the care she had given him, had left her this valuable message. On the day that this young man passed away, Julie was not in the hospice. While she was driving her car attending to personal matters, a strange sensation crossed her heart, like a premonition. That unexpected experience made her immediately think of the young man, and at that moment she thought she heard his voice saying, "If I had known that dying was like this, I would never have been afraid of his arrival." Confused, Julie looked around to make sure that there was no one else in the vehicle. Just then, her phone rang. The nurse on duty informed her that the young man had passed away. Julie understood that, upon leaving this world, the young man, as a sign of gratitude for the care she had given him, had sent her this important message. Although this episode marked her deeply, Julie admitted that, for years, she did not dare to talk about it for fear of being labeled crazy and risking her career in the medical field. However, this message from the supernatural not only reinforced her belief in the existence of life after death, but also led her to pay more attention to the dying in order to try to understand what really happens at the moment when people cross the barrier between life and death. Over time, Julie identified certain patterns that, according to her, indicated that someone was close to dying. She called these patterns deathbed phenomena. She observed that, in their last moments, many people became deeply emotional and wanted to surround themselves with their friends and family. She also noticed that dogs seem especially sensitive to the imminent death of their owners. According to Julie, when a person is close to death, dogs display restless behavior, staying by their owner's side constantly and trying to demonstrate their care until the end. Regarding other signs, Julie commented, "There are some in particular that really caught my attention and led me to believe that there is some kind of continuity after death. Thanks to these signs, I became certain that a better existence awaits us beyond the limits of this physical world. I now believe that when we die, we simply wake up in a place we have always known, but had somehow forgotten." Julie observed that in the last days of life, Many people who are close to death tend to behave in a similar way and utter words that are repeated from one instance to another. According to her studies, shortly before death, people seem to enter a state of remarkable mental clarity, where they perceive the world with extraordinary intensity and experience an unexpected increase in energy. This occurs even in patients with serious illnesses. Before they die, many people go through surprising moments, Julie explained. They suddenly have a better appetite, some manage to get out of bed, start walking, talking, and even laughing. However, this increase in energy usually does not last long. Sadly, many patients die within a few hours or days of this episode. For this reason, Julie does her best to prepare family members so that they are not overwhelmed by an unexpected death after observing this sudden improvement in their loved one. I try to explain this phenomenon to them so that the death, after several days of apparent improvement, does not take them by surprise or leave them devastated, she added. Julia McFadden called visions another of the signs she identified. These usually appear a few weeks before death. People who experience them can converse normally with their living relatives, but at the same time they claim to see deceased loved ones, who seem to be present, either standing next to them or in some corner of the room. These visions, in most cases, are comforting for those who are about to leave. The most important thing at this time is to provide support to your loved one or friend on their deathbed. However, it is important to understand that when someone begins to have these visions, their departure is usually a month away. Julie also mentioned two other signs that she identified as the death stare and the death gesture. The latter occurs when a person, lying or sitting in bed, raises his or her hands as if trying to hug someone invisible. A palliative care nurse described one such episode. A patient of hers, while lying in bed, sat up, stretched his or her arms out in front of him, and when asked what he or she was doing, replied that he or she was opening the gates of heaven. The so-called death stare is characterized by a particular behavior. The person fixes his or her attention on a corner of the room, as if he or she were watching something of great significance. Generally, they describe the presence of a deceased relative or even an angel. The curious thing is that, if you try to catch his or her attention, either by snapping your fingers in front of his or her face or by calling his or her name, the person will not look away, which is especially remarkable. Another intriguing phenomenon is the ability of people to foresee the exact moment of their death. Julia McFadden has witnessed numerous cases in which patients state with certainty, "I'm going to die tonight. I know it, I feel it," and indeed, that is what happens. Some patients seem to wait until all their relatives and friends are present before leaving, while others prefer to do so alone and wait for their loved ones to leave the room to leave this world. There are also those who delay their departure to witness an important event, such as a birthday or a wedding. Julia McFadden said, "Perhaps the observations I have gathered can help people lose their fear of death. The more time I spent interacting with people in their final moments, the less fear I felt toward the end of my own existence. I have witnessed on numerous occasions unexplainable phenomena that occur at the moment someone dies, and they almost always convey a message of hope. They seem to indicate to us that, beyond life, there is a wonderful world where we can probably meet again with those we love, this time without limits or restrictions." Meanwhile, another doctor named David Kessler, who also spent many years working in a hospice, made a similar reflection. If there really is nothing beyond this world, then why do dying people claim otherwise? What would be the point of lying in the last moments of life? One asks. Why would anyone deceive at such a critical time? It would be more logical to assume that, just before dying, people tell only the truth. David Kessler, who worked alongside renowned psychologist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, shared this belief. Kubler-Ross dedicated her life to caring for people in their final moments and researching near-death experiences. After her death, a book was published that collected dozens of accounts and visions of people on their deathbeds, many of which she and Kessler had personally witnessed. Kessler, who was 32 when she became interested in end-of-life care, recounted one of her first experiences in this field. "My first encounter with something extraordinary on the deathbed was with a woman named Dora. She bravely faced her terminal illness, but in the last few weeks she began to lose consciousness intermittently, then regain it unexpectedly. The first time it happened, she was unconscious for a while, but upon awakening, she began to talk to someone no one else could see. From that point on, It was apparent that Dora was increasingly interacting with this invisible visitor, even as she looked at her doctors or visitors. As Dora's illness reached its final stage, she began to converse openly with her mother, who had already passed away. No one in the room doubted that Dora really saw her mother, because her voice was charged with sincerity and tenderness. According to her, her mother's clothes were nothing more than a bright light, so intense that it was almost painful to look at them. David Kessler also commented, "I am not a religious person, but this view does not seem out of place to me. Rather, it seems like a natural process at the end of human life. Our parents or loved ones are waiting for us on the other side to help us make the transition to another plane of existence and guide us on the path we should follow." In his research, Kessler shared a case that illustrated this phenomenon. A woman, who was in her final days due to heart failure, began talking to someone who was not visible to others. According to her, it was her deceased husband. Relatives assumed that the conversations were the product of hallucinations caused by the medications and requested the doctor to stop the drugs. However, even after stopping the treatment, the woman continued to interact with her deceased husband, alternating without difficulty between talking to him and communicating with her present relatives. David Kessler lamented that most doctors avoid speaking publicly about these issues and rarely admit them openly, fearing to be considered out of place or irrational. As a result, people often dismiss these experiences as side effects of medications or simple hallucinations. But Kessler has a different perspective. He is convinced that the existence of an afterlife is real. "I have spent many years observing people in their final moments in hospice, and I want to share something I have noticed," he explained. "I have never heard a dying person say that there is nothing more. No one has said, 'I see, there is nothing, I am entering nothingness.' If there is nothing beyond this world, why would the dying say otherwise? And if so, I prefer to trust the words of those who are on the verge of death, rather than the doubts of the living who have never worked with terminally ill patients in hospices, places where people have nothing to lose and no reason to lie." Another nurse who worked in a hospice and shared valuable knowledge with the world was Barbara K.S. From her observations of people in their final moments, she compiled a unique book in which she documented, in a thorough and detailed manner, the behavior of patients in the process of leaving this earthly world. Here is what Barbara commented on this. "Death equalizes us all. Among my patients there were both ordinary workers and people of high social status, but when someone faces their end, differences in social position cease to matter. Everyone, without exception, feels fear of the unknown, and this fear is often especially intensified in those cases where the patient has witnessed a loved one die in a difficult way." However, Barbara noted that, according to her observations, in more than half of the cases, this fear tends to fade away shortly before the moment of death. Barbara also observed that, a few weeks before they die, many people begin to see loved ones who have died before them. Over her decades of experience, she collected hundreds of such accounts, which made it clear to her that previously deceased relatives appear before the dying in their final days to help them make the transition from the physical to the spiritual plane. According to Barbara's observations, the figure who most often acts as a guide in this passage into another existence is the mother of the dying person. This is no coincidence, since, if the relationship between mother and child has been good, there is no one more significant to the child. This idea has its own logic. Just as a mother brought her child into this world, she will also accompany him into the metaphysical dimensions of the universe. One of Barbara's patients, who suffered from cancer, spent her last night restless and unable to sleep. However, at dawn, she opened her eyes, fixed her gaze on an empty corner of the room, and with a tired expression, smiled weakly before whispering, "Mom, I am so glad to see you." Shortly afterward, the patient left this earthly world. Barbara also shared another case in which a father played the role of a guide to the other world for his daughter. She related, "Among my patients was a 52-year-old woman who was very afraid of death and often told me that she would fight for her life until the last moment. 2 days before she left, however, she began to sit upright, exchanging brief comments with someone no one else could see. I asked the patient who she was talking to, and she replied that she was conversing with her deceased father. Shortly before she died, the woman said, 'It's okay. I'm not afraid.'" At the end of this story, Barbara added, "I cannot give a logical explanation for these cases, but I witnessed them, so I believe in their veracity. I understand that reading about something like this is very different from being present at the moment of death and feeling, deep within, contact with something beyond this world. Barbara wrote the following about these events. There are three main theories as to how and why these experiences occur. The first is a physical theory, which suggests that these visions are caused by a lack of oxygen to the brain and the release of certain chemicals in the body. The second is a psychological theory, which proposes that apparitions of deceased relatives are a mental defense against death, as the mind struggles to come to terms with the idea of its own demise. However, there is also the third theory, the spiritual one. This connects these supernatural experiences with the existence of the human soul and the reality of a life beyond death. Barbara also mentioned that a few weeks before they die, people tend to lose interest in the earthly world, as their existence here begins to lose meaning. As the time of death approaches, the boundary separating our physical reality from another dimension seems to become more tenuous, and the dying person may feel as if they are between two worlds. Perhaps this is why many see loved ones who have passed away before them. In addition to describing encounters with deceased relatives, patients often shared with Barbara visions of bright lights and places of indescribable beauty. For example, one of the hospice patients, who was growing weaker by the day, sat up in her bed one afternoon, looked up, and said, "Do you see those lights? They're calling me." Minutes later, that woman passed away, Barbara K.S. recounted. Bright lights are a recurring element in many near-death experiences. Barbara believed that these lights could be spiritual beings, some awe-inspiring phenomenon from the spiritual world, or perhaps something that the living are not yet able to understand. One patient described hearing a heavenly choir and feeling the touch of angel wings as she described what she saw. As she did so, her face lit up with a calm, peaceful smile. Another patient turned to Barbara as she walked into his room one afternoon and said, "It's time to say goodbye. Thank you for taking care of me, but I'm going home now. It's so beautiful, there are lights and clouds everywhere." That same day, the man left this world. Barbara said that when patients experience visions like these, they are often filled with hope, and at such times, she knows that they are living their last hours on earth. I am convinced that for these people, the transition to another world is smooth and with very little fear. All these experiences and stories reinforce my belief that there is something beyond our material world. At the very least, it gives me hope that when my time comes, someone dear to me will also come to accompany me on this important step into the unknown. I admit that death is scary enough on its own, so it would be comforting to have someone welcome us with love and tenderness.